proud of the win, to get a road win in conference at a place that our program hasn't won since 2002, and to do it in the fashion that we did when we didn't always play our best, but we played our best when it mattered. I think was an important step to take. There's not a coach in college football that I respect more than Bill Snyder, and not just for the results that he's got at Kansas State, but how he's achieved them with extremely physical, well-coached, disciplined, fundamental football teams, and we were fortunate to do enough to win the game, and we're excited about that, excited about learning from that, both the good things that we did and some of the things that we need to improve on, because we're playing one of the top 5 teams in the country this week, and we're going to need to play our best at all times for us to stay competitive in this game. But as we proved last year, I think if we do, our best is good enough to be competitive, and excited for our fans, excited for our university. We understand, the passion and history and importance of this rivalry for both states, for both universities, for college football, and it's a fun week, to prepare. But as I told our guys yesterday, they would look at me like I was crazy if I walked in that team meeting room on Sunday and said, "Hey guys, we've won 4 straight games, but because we're playing in the Red River Showdown, we're going to do things in practice completely different than we've ever done them." We're going to prepare the way that we know how to prepare, the way that we know it works, but we're also going to enjoy the week and enjoy the pageantry that is, and the passion that's involved in this rivalry. Injury updates. We're actually on the mend, which is a good thing as of now. Other than the season out guys, the Malcolm Roach and Max Cummins, with season-ending surgeries, and then Patrick Hudson still working on his return to play protocol from the Heat deal. We're in pretty good shape. Montrell and BJ are both concussion guys that have to make it through practice, but other than that, Jamarcus Durst should be ready to go. Brennan Eagles should be ready to go. Keontae Ingram, so on and so forth. So excited to see that, and excited for this week. Questions?
Tom, 2 questions. Number one, about Keontae. The way you guys closed out the game against K-State, going forward, is he a guy who is ready for a heavier role, like maybe 18, 20 carries a game, a featured back role?
Certainly. He's ready. Now, he hasn't been healthy since week 1 when, we were not quite sure. As a true freshman, you want to kind of ease him into some things. So yeah, I think he's ready. There's still some things that, every first is a first. Every new thing is the first time. Every blitz, every, gap exchange linebackers, running the football requires a vision and a skill, requires a bit of predictability in terms of, or ability to predict, based on fronts and coverages, where a guy is going to fit certain things and how is my O-line going to block certain things. So there's still some growing pains there, but he's getting better each week.
Sure. And then secondly, this has been the smoothest 4 weeks, I think, since you've been here, it seems like, and the smoothest 4 weeks this program has had in years. How have you been able to eliminate the drama that has engulfed this program at times?
Belief, trust. Our players trust us. and we trust them. Winning on Saturdays certainly helps, but at times, even last year, that didn't. So I think, yeah, there's a belief and a commitment and a buy-in into the way that we do things that, and maybe there is, and maybe the leadership is so good too that it just doesn't get to me or to you, and it gets squashed before it ever gets started, which is by definition drama-free. So I think those are all, it's the players, man. It's the players trusting each other, trusting us, and believing, and then walking that belief, not just talking about it.
Right up front, Dennis.
Coach, it seems like this team is making a habit of making the play when they need to, developing that kind of good habit going into a game that is really defined by big moments and big plays. How, I guess, your confidence level in your team as they develop that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are confident in that. We're confident that, I think, regardless of deficit or adversity, that we can certainly respond. I think we also get, it's a good thing that we get so caught up in the singularness of purpose on each play that you lose sight maybe of the gravity of that play, and that's a good thing. No one play is more important than the other, or should it be in our players' minds. And I'm sure if you asked me, I was standing on the sideline, I did not know until after the game that we just ran the clock out and got it with 6.5 minutes, and they had a timeout left, and converted a third down, and the 3rd and 9 from Ehlinger to Colin, and all of those things that when you then look back on it, you're like, wow, those are some pretty big moments. As they're happening, you don't, because I think our guys are trained to the point where each play is its own entity, and really none carry more weight than others. So I am confident that we can make those plays, or I'm growing confidence that we can.
Tom, kind of speaking of that and in the end of that game and those big moments, after the game, Sam said that he believes that this team is finally a team that knows how to finish. And I know it was a problem last year. It was a big emphasis in the offseason. At this point in the season, you have 4 straight wins. Looking at the K-State game, would you categorize this team as a team that knows how to finish?
Yeah. I mean, knows how to only requires one time of doing it, and then Now, is it a team that can consistently go do that? That still remains to be seen. But I think we understand the formula. We have confidence in our ability to do it. But the proof is in the pudding, time after time after time.
Tom, after the Maryland loss, you and some of the other players said that your goals were still in place. That fell on some deaf ears because you'd lost to Maryland, but here you are, 4 wins in a row, got some momentum. How do you think they're going to handle the hype machine now that this is a game where all national eyes are on Texas OU?
They'll handle it great. They handled the USC week great. They handled the TCU week great. They handled the silence and the trap game noise great going into Kansas State. So we talked at length yesterday about, tightening your circle. Don't let it grow. In fact, in times like this, you need to tighten it. And then let your preparation and your focus on Saturday eliminate and silence the possibility for any noise. So I think our guys will do great. They have all season, and I think they'll continue to.
Also, you said last week that Brecken and Charles were close in the pass rush. They finally got home. How important is that going to be with a quarterback like Murray, who can make so many plays off schedule with those great receivers?
Really important. Yeah, he's really good. really, really good, and you know, a lot of speed and talent at wide receiver too. So if we're going to expect to help our corners and our secondary as a whole, we're going to have to be able to generate a little bit of pass rush without blitzing all the time. And so Brecken and Charles and Taquan and Nelly and Gerald, you know, those are all guys that I think are up for the challenge, and they've gotten better. And Marquez, I can't forget, you know, Marquez is playing about 30 snaps a game now too. So those are all guys that we believe can rush the passer and can hopefully do a good job against their quarterback.
Over here on your left, Jeff.
Tom, two questions real quick. One, how much different is the Oklahoma offense with Kyler running things instead of Baker Mayfield, or what changes do you see? And two, obviously this game is a great showcase in the DFW area. Your first two recruiting classes, you've had a handful of recruits out of Dallas-Fort Worth. How do you look at recruiting there, and do you want to ramp that up at all going forward?
To the first part of your question, the names have changed. I don't know that the results have at all. You know, that maybe the difference is, you know, how elite of a runner their quarterback is. You know, I remember him coming out of high school. I thought he was a phenomenal player, in terms of the combination of speed and explosiveness running the football, and then such a beautiful, quick release with, you know, strong arm, had tons of velocity on the ball. So, yeah, not a whole lot's changed, to be quite honest with you. They're still one of, if not the best offenses in the country, and we're going to have our hands full. And as far as recruiting the DFW area, yeah, I would like to think that every game that Texas plays is a pretty good showcase for us, being that we're 2.5, 3 hours from the DFW area. So, you know, I've said it, and we'll say it till I'm blue in the face. You know, if in a perfect world, we would find 25 players every year that we feel like you can win championships with from the state of Texas that want to come to Texas, and that would be our signing class every year. Some years that might include more from East Texas than from Central Texas. Some years more Central than Houston. Some years more Dallas than Houston. And then some years those players may not exist, and you got to go out of the state. But in a perfect world, our signing classes would consist of players from the state of Texas, and wherever the best 25 players are in the state, you know, for our needs. Hopefully our showcase and our spotlight is big enough as the you know, the flagship university of the state of Texas, that it doesn't matter really where we play.
Stay over here, Jim.
Tom, with Sam's continued development as a quarterback, he hasn't had to be your leading rusher this year, but he picked up a couple of big first downs on that last drive against Kansas State. Where does he still factor in as a runner in your offense? And how much of that has changed, just given the fact that your offensive line is so much, we're seeing so much better play there than we have in recent years?
I think in gotta have it run situations, I think that's where he shows up probably the most right now. You know, 3rd and short, goal line, trying to end the game, you know, run the clock out. When everybody in the stadium pretty much knows you're going to run the football, it's okay, how do we get an extra blocker to do so? And in order to get an extra blocker to do so, you got to run the quarterback sometimes. So, and then in the you know, read game, still a lot of our offense has some reads to it. It just so far that a lot of them have been give reads.
Tom, two questions. First is, you know, has Tim Beck returned to the team, and do you think he'll be able to sort of handle his typical workload throughout the week, or is he going to be sort of still receiving treatment?
He has not. The update on Coach Beck, I appreciate you asking. forgot that. He is awaiting his discharge from the hospital as we speak. I think he's got a doctor's appointment scheduled at 1 o'clock to get an injection of some sort of antibiotics, and then we're expecting him back to the office this afternoon, this evening. It's not like he's been incapacitated, so he's had his laptop with him. He's kind of done all of the normal things that you would do on a Monday morning from a game prep standpoint, and we've been in communication with him, and we'll kind of all pull our ideas together this afternoon and finalize at least, what we do most of Monday is spent on first and second down, normal down and distance, normal field zones. So finalize that game plan tomorrow, and then I would imagine he'll be fully ready to then help us game plan and practice for third down and red zone and stuff like that following later in the week.
And then also on Sam, obviously had a super efficient game against K-State. I think he only had 7 incompletions and 2 stretches where he had 9 completions in a row. Against an offense like Oklahoma, do you think you maybe need to let him loose a little bit and take deeper shots, sort of like what you did with USC, where you say, you're not as worried about the completion percentage, you're trying to get the bigger plays to hit?
I don't know. I think that's there's an interesting debate. It's the way that we managed the game against Kansas State is completely different than the way we managed it in other games offensively. When we understand we're a bit limited when we don't play with tempo on offense, but there was definitely a concerted effort in that game offensively to keep our defense off the field. When they go on a 17-play drive that ends in a touchdown, the last thing we want to go do is go throw the ball over somebody's head 3 times in a row and put your defense right back out on the field. So I think you got to feel how the game's going. You gotta. If we're playing good defense, then maybe you slow it down a little bit. If you feel like it's going to be a boat race, then you start cranking it up a little bit. But there's no doubt we've got to connect on a few more deep shots. Again, we're not good enough. We had one 12-play drive that went 90 yards and ended in a touchdown. The other 6 scoring opportunity possessions ended in a field goal, a missed field goal, a couple punts, and only 1 3-and-out. But I would imagine we're going to get more than 7 scoring possessions, scoring opportunities in this game. The 8th possession obviously being the one where we're just trying to run the clock out, not really score. So I've never been around a game where you had 7 real only scoring opportunities. I felt like we were moving the ball well. Again, 1 3-and-out the entire game, but we obviously didn't have very many opportunities to score. So long answer to a short question. I think it depends on the other side of the ball, and we pride ourselves in not being mutually exclusive. The goal of the offense is not to score as many points as you can. The goal of the offense is to score 1 more point than the opponent, at least 1 more point.
In the middle, Roger.
Tom, your 2 bigger receivers kind of separate themselves as far as stat-wise. Can you talk about how they complement each other with, Colin making some big plays when they need to be made, and then LJ kind of doing his thing underneath?
Yeah, they complement each other a couple different ways. One, because their skill set, even though their size looks pretty similar, their skill set is pretty different. 2, I think when you've got them on different sides of the field, that poses problems in terms of defending the run game, defending Colin Johnson, and defending LJ Humphrey. And then when you put them both on the same side, now it becomes okay, now we've got 2 guys right next to each other that are both threats, legitimate threats. So I think they complement each other great. Happy they're on our team. But, Devin Duvernay, made some big plays for us. Obviously, we missed him a couple times, but he's a guy that also, if for some reason you find a way to shut the run game down and triple cover both those guys, or, you know, there's a guy out there in Devin Duvernay that we have a ton of confidence in too.
Hey, Coach, got two questions for you. You talked about Oklahoma's receivers, and, you know, there's been teams that are going after Chris Boyd, you know, right now and targeting him. You know, what's been happening? What do you think has kind of been the biggest issue? I know you actually had some penalties, so what's been the biggest issue with Chris so far?
Not a ton. I mean, I think, you know, the structure of our defense, you know, when you're out there by yourself a lot, you're going to get challenged. And I think, you know, his aggressiveness is something that we all love at times. You know, we've got to do a better job of coaching him to, you know, not be quite as susceptible on the double move. But and then, you know, we've got to do a better job coaching him how to play the ball, you know, the deep ball in the air. We got to turn our head quicker. He had great coverage on the one down the sideline. I mean, great coverage, and he just turned left instead of right to try to find the ball. He'd have been fine. And so, minor things, really minor things. But I think he's playing well. He's playing. You know, he's making a lot of plays, and, you know, a few corrections here, but I think he'll be fine.
And the last one is your evaluation of maybe where you guys are at from the red zone offense perspective, and maybe even punt protection. Are those areas you feel like there's room for improvement?
Punt protection, yeah, I thought we were over the hurdle, and then we got a bad snap, and, you know, that's going to happen. You know, if a team is on a full-out rush and you're off on your operation time, bad things happen, but I don't see that being an issue. And then red zone offense, I know the numbers aren't great. We've taken a knee twice in the red zone, which skews the numbers a little bit early in the season. You know, we have felt more confident in our field goal kicker, which skews the touchdown numbers. Now, you know, we want to score touchdowns 75% of the time in the red zone. We feel like that's a realistic goal. We're not there right now. We definitely do need to improve, but it's not a massive panic right now. It's you know, we're 5 games in, and, you know, there's a couple things skewing the numbers, but we do know that we got to score a few more touchdowns when we're in there.
You talk a lot about drowning out the noise. Is there a difficulty this week with the freshmen that haven't experienced this to drowning out the noise of something completely different that they've never experienced?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I would imagine it's harder. You know, everything's a first for those young guys. You know, so we'll have conversations with them, but most of the ones that are playing a bunch for us are pretty mature anyways, and I don't know that you know, that they're going to listen to. Again, human beings are very unique, right? I mean, any animal with ears can hear. Human beings have the option of whether we want to listen or not, and so I think that's the biggest thing that, since they've been here, they've heard, you know, thrown at them pretty much on a weekly basis. That you know, all of that is a choice. Listening is a choice. It's inevitable that you're going to hear some things, but whether you choose to listen to and who you choose to listen to are up to you.
Is that the same inside that stadium because of the half? I mean, do you think that changes at all because of that atmosphere?
Nah. The question was if it changes in the stadium as well because of the half and half. I don't think so. I mean, it was pretty loud at Kansas State. You know, I think it's unique, certainly, but not something that should affect their play.
On your left, Danny.
Tom, you guys didn't bring Kyle Porter with you guys to Manhattan. Going forward, do you expect him to be a contributor to this program, or can we kind of read between the lines with him?
Well, you don't have to read between the lines. I talked to Kyle and wanted to make sure that him and I were on the same page. Kyle's contemplating redshirting this year, and that's a decision that we support. And if Kyle eventually decides that he wants to play, Kyle is more than welcome on our team. Kyle's still practicing with us every day to make sure that that opportunity is still a reality for him. And so, we'll see how and when he wants to make that decision, but we support him in everything that he does. He's been nothing but a do-right guy in every facet of his life since we've been here. So we want to make sure that we're doing right by him too.
All right, Chip.
Tom, how would you grade the offensive play calling without Tim Beck and your comfortability with it? And when you look at Oklahoma's defense, what stands out?
Offensive play calling, I thought was okay. I think we got a bit conservative in the middle of the game. We're playing great defense. You're up 19-0, and it's, it turns into, hey, don't lose this thing, don't screw it up. And then, we had a couple hiccups defensively, and all of a sudden it turns into a game, and I thought we responded well, but we were trying to manage the game to win the game, and we did that. We didn't turn the football over. We had a 12-play, 90-yard drive for a touchdown. So I think it was good. If there was one thing I wish we would have done differently, it would have been maybe stay aggressive a little bit. We missed a couple of shots early, and then boom, it's 19-0, and you say, okay, probably don't need to do that anymore, and probably should have. What was the question about their defense?
Yeah, OU's defense, what stands out?
Oh, I think Kenneth Murray's a hell of a player. He's the glue that kind of holds them together. Their front six, I think, is the strength of their defense. It's gonna be a battle trying to block those guys. It really is. And then they're physical in the back end. They'll fly around and hit you.
Up front, Kirk.
On defending Kyler Murray, have other opponents used a spy or 2 or 3 on him, and is it a possibility they're even better at quarterback since that last guy left?
I don't know that he's better. He's really good. The last guy won the Heisman Trophy and was the #1 overall pick, so it's tough to be better than that. But he's really good and poses very, very similar challenges. And then the spy thing, yeah, I think there are times to do that in passing situations where you want to cover them all, but then, a lot of times when you got a guy that's such an elite runner, you cover them all and it turns into quarterback draw, and so I think there's a time and a place for it, and we're going to have to make sure that he doesn't beat us with his legs.
And have other teams spied on him?
A few, yeah, in certain passing situations, yeah.
Middle Ed.
Coach, I'm really liking the trick plays. Is that something you put in since?
I'm glad you are,
I
man.
love it, Coach. Is that something you like to do? But the little kid in you keeps the defense honest, and you expect to see more against Oklahoma this week? Trick plays?
Yeah, we don't call them trick plays. We call them special plays because we feel like they're unique to that week's game plan because of something special that you see in the opposing defense. So, yeah, I think there's a variety of ways to keep defenses honest, and from over pursuing or try to take advantage of maybe a perceived weakness, something like that. So we carry 4 or 5 pretty much every game, and we'll continue to do it. And I like calling them, but some games more than others, they get called just because of the situation. Sometimes they're only call from the right hash or only call from the left hash play, like a halfback throwback. You're only going to call from the left hash running right with a right-handed tailback. You're not going to ask your tailback to run left, turn around, and throw back. So the situation kind of the stars have to align a little bit for all those to get called.
Keep them coming.
Two last ones, John up front, and then Steve in the middle.
Coach, you talked about OU having one of the best offenses in the country, and you said earlier you guys need to play your best at all times against them. Why do you think your best is good enough to beat their best?
Well, I think our best, is we're pretty good in the secondary. We're really good at linebacker, and we're 2 of our 5 captains are on the defensive line, are starting defensive end and starting nose guards. So I'm assuming you just say on that side of the ball, or you just in general? Yeah, I think. I don't know. I think our best is really good. Now, I do think our best, we have to play our best in order to have a chance against the elite teams in the country, like Oklahoma. If we roll in there with anything less than our A-plus game for 4 quarters, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be fun. And but I think we've proven to ourselves that our best is good enough.
Last one, back middle.
Coach, here you are coming to the middle of the year. You pretty much figured out who the players are you have in your back pocket, who you can really trust. And talk about that a little bit. Tell us about the guys that you develop, 15, 16 guys on each side of the ball that are always going to be there for you. And how are you working to get the other guys more involved?
I think, certainly trust is earned. It's not given. And so I think more than anything, we as coaches have earned their trust. And, we needed to win a few of these games early to prove to ourselves that, hey, this isn't just theory, but the way that we do things in this program actually reaps dividends, and we were able to do that. So I think the core group of guys that we trust are ones that have been maybe easier for us to have earned their trust, and so we continue daily, hourly even, to cultivate the trust of our team and our players. And I think we're making progress every day, and I wouldn't say there's anybody in that locker room that doesn't trust us, and there's nobody in that locker room that we don't trust either. But the ones that are kind of up here are guys that I think we've done a really good job of earning their trust, which in turn has allowed us to trust them.